Tails. Good match.
Graeme Dott did make the full journey.
Yeah. You won the toss, so.
And eventually, after some confusion about who won the toss
Best
and
of
who
seven,
wants to break,
first frame.
it's
Mark
Williams to get
break.
things underway in this third round match. The first one we've seen here today.
Quiet, please.
Well, it's certainly been a busy day of snooker here on liveworldsnooker.tv. This is our seventh match, seventh and final. And although Williams is the higher ranked, and he has got the superior career record, I think on the way they've played to get to this stage, you might have to make Graeme Dott a slight favourite. Williams beat Adam Duffy in the first round 4-2. Made a 73 break in the first frame, then went 2-1 down. Having levelled, cleared up with 45 to make it 3-2. Typical Williams steal of a frame, that one. Then put together a run of 44 to complete a 4-2 victory. And then had runs of 50 and 45 in beating Alan McManus 4-1. The fifth and closing frame of that match was quite interesting. Williams, he needed a couple of snookers on the colours, got them, and cleared the colours to snatch it on the black. It's been more fluent progress from Graeme Dott. Beat Matthew Stevens in the first round. What a tough draw that is. Breaks of 60, 70, 57 and 46. And then took only 48 minutes to beat Andrew Higginson 4-0. There was Williams's rather unconventional entrance. Yes, Dott engaged for only 48 minutes in beating Higginson 4-0. Made breaks of 63, 66 and 79 and looked in really good nick. It was a big shot to take on that. Knew full well he would have position on the pink, but he also knew, should he miss it, he would leave a red.
One.
During the break between matches, a few scores moved on in the other contests that are taking place around this Lotto arena at the moment. Ben Wollaston took a 2-0 lead over Dechawat Poonjang. Thepchai Unu and Tianpeng Fei, they're now locked together at 2-2. And it's looking increasingly good for Tom Ford against Ken Doherty. Ford leading
60.
by 3 frames to 0, and he's initiated the scoring in the fourth frame with a break of 48,
70.
which is ongoing. Still 2-0 for Mark Allen over Peter Ebden. Still 2-2 Neil Robertson and Kurt Mafflin.
$24. $25. Mark Williams, 25.
You see that so often when players take the cue ball into the bunch. Not just missing the black, but undercutting it. Mark Williams, 18 world ranking titles to his credit. But in recent times he suffered some morale-sapping defeats in big finals when he's been on the verge of lifting a trophy. December 2010 it all started. Lost 10-9 to John Higgins in the UK Championship final after being 9-5 ahead. Last season, well in front of Mark Selby in the Shanghai Masters final. One frame away from victory, lost 10-9. And just before that, he'd been in control against Stuart Bingham in the climax of the Australian Goldfields Open.
6.
Again, one frame away from victory, couldn't get the job done. Bingham won 9-8. And 3 defeats of that nature can have a big effect. He's 37 years of age now, Williams. If he is still in his snooker prime, which is debatable, but if he is, he's coming to the end of it. And so I feel as though over the next few months he needs to get another title under his belt to restore a little bit of lost self-belief. Oh,
12.
Superb from Graeme Dott. Well played shot, and the ideal result.
Sorry, fall.
Well, he just has to turn around to the
Graeme
referee and say that's a push. If he didn't
12.
know that was a push,
Mark
there's
Williams,
something
4.
not quite right. That was the most blatant push shot you've ever seen in your life. Obviously, Graeme is a true sportsman. There was no way he was going to carry on after that. It was just amazing to me that he had to tell the referee that it was a push shot.
1.
You can't imagine a footballer telling the referee, yes, I gave away a penalty, or yes, I was offside.
Six. Seven.
Now, the way he's played that shot tells us that there is a path for the black to go to this top right-hand pocket.
Fourteen. $15.
Well, a good shot, but now hampered queuing over the red close to the side cushion. He's got to take the black on, but this is not an enviable shot at all. Oh, well done. Really well done. That should be the frame winner.
22. 23. Mark Williams.
Well, can you
23.
believe it? For the second time in the frame, he's missed a black off its spot to the same pocket on both occasions by undercutting. I think there he was just concentrating on getting the positional cannon correctly. His concentration was divided. Could do with a useful kiss here, and that's precisely what he's got. Williams 40 points ahead, 59 on the table. But where the balls are, he's still vulnerable. Would like to see a couple of colours awkwardly placed on cushions. Maybe even a red or two.
One. Four.
And the winning of this frame is not coming easy. Still needs one more red.
Five. $12. 13. Mark Williams 13 and a frame.
Well, he made hard work of that, Mark Williams. It wasn't one visit snooker by any means. But in the end, he got over the line. And so the Welshman leads the Scot by 1 frame to 0. One result I can tell you about, Tom Ford is through. He's beaten Ken Doherty 4-0. Other scores, Neil Robertson has taken a 3-2 lead over Kurt Mafflin. Actually, frame 5 is still ongoing, but he's going to win it, no doubt. In fact, he could make a century break. Mark Allen still 2-0 up on Peter Ebden. The third frame has been something of a marathon there. Ben Wollaston now 2-1 up on Dechuot Poomjang. Thachai Onu and Chiampeng Fei 2-2. And Andrew Paget going nicely against Stuart Bingham. Paget, one of the few remaining amateurs in the tournament, leads Bingham 2-1. When I say amateurs, they still play for money, but an amateur, for the purposes of this tournament, is designated as someone who hasn't got a place on snooker's main world ranking event tour.
One. Four.
A very agreeable split for Graeme Dott there.
10.
Reds broke open. Pink and black remain available as well. And when that happens, you can't ask for anything more.
Yeah.
By the way, Neil Robertson did make a century break, 119 I believe it was. And he is 3-2 ahead of Kurt Mafflin. Q-power necessary for that shot.
14.
Q-power delivered. But as you can see, not quite enough to be able to pop the red closest to the pocket. And Dott isn't quite sure that he can see enough of this red to be able to cut it in.
Graeme Dott, 14.
Williams acknowledging that the little nudge on the brown was very helpful to him.
Wow.
Had to play that with a touch of side. He just about flicked the red thin enough to pot it. And now another position of immense promise for Dott. All of the third round matches are now either complete, as in the case of Tom Ford and Ken Doherty, Ford winning 4-0, or they're on the tables. Because the last one to begin, Jack Lazowski and Matt Selt, well, they've broken off, and Lazowski still on a high after beating Judd Trump in the previous round. Has quickly taken a 50-point lead in the first frame. So in a couple of hours' time,
16.
We will know the last 16 lineup.
$17. 22. $23.
Well, not a nice shot coming up either way. Up off the shot straight away, knew he'd missed it. Always going towards that right hand far jaw. Never easy when you're cueing from under the side cushion like that, but I think everyone expected Dott to pop the pink. It wasn't a shot of great positional complexity.
1.
Now the good thing here for Williams, the yellow is off its spot, so I think it's going to be okay to float the cue ball in and out of baulk. Well, he's taking the route in behind the brown. Past the green.
6.
And as Ted Lowe, the great snooker commentator, used to say, a little betwixt and between here. He's trying to pop the red to the left hand side. Our right hand side of the black.
7.
Oh, that's worked out. A treat.
$13.
It's a big name section of the draw, this, because
19.
either Williams or Dott will go through to play either Ebden or Mark Allen in the last 16 tomorrow morning.
20.
Whatever combination comes through there, it's going to be two of the very best in the business butting heads.
$26. $27. $34. $35.
Just a glancing blow on the red when he wanted it full ball. So Williams takes a 3-point lead, but he'll need to pull out something special here to continue this break if he wants to do that. Well, he remained in attacking mode. Thankfully for him, even though the red was missed, it wasn't left. Speculative double from Williams, knowing full well that the cue ball was going to go into what they call the deep grass, deep in bulk. Very well played shot. So difficult to catch the reds as thin as that. And Williams not only achieving containment, Dott snookered. Realising that he can't place his opponent in any kind of trouble from there, or at least not without taking an overdue risk. And so consequently Williams just trickling into the red, knowing full well that he's probably going to be back in trouble after this. Normally when you get down to the last couple of reds and a frame is in the balance, Williams is the kind of player who you fancy will come through and win it. But Dott is pretty much the same. Both real fighters, these two. That though was a blunder. And I think the red cuts. It's thin, but it goes. And would you believe it, Williams has overcut the red. Similar kind of shot, although not identical to the famous black that Steve Davis, when Davis lost 18-17 to Dennis Taylor in the 85 World Final.
One.
The black that Davis missed was a little easier than the one that Williams has just misjudged. Although when the world title rests on one ball, no pot is easy.
Graeme Dott, 1.
Well, as Dott gesticulated there, not just the fact he missed the pink, he got no position at all on the last red as well, which is probably a good thing from his point of view.
Foul. And a miss. Mark Williams.
Well, that was
4.
the worst possible outcome. 4 points given away, but that's inconsequential in comparison to the fact that Dott has left the last red, and the opportunity for Williams to take a 2-0 lead.
One.
Walked around the table before this to just check whether the yellow goes past the blue to its own pocket, and it will. But lost the white ball, didn't grab hold of it, didn't stun it enough. It squirted off the face of the green, and now this is a tricky one. Oh, nicely done. Use the brown.
Nine.
And so 15 points ahead, just this most elementary pot, and Williams should have secured the frame.
13. 18. 24 in the frame.
Well, much like the opening frame, it wasn't pretty, but that won't concern Mark Williams in the slightest. The reason? He leads the 2006 World Champion Graeme Dott by 2 frames to 0, halfway towards a place in the last 16 of the Antwerp Open. So what about the other scores? Well, Kurt Mafflin and Neil Robertson are involved in a really cracking affair on an adjoining table, actually the one that's nearest to this, table 2, 3 frames each. There you can see it. Robertson went 3-2 ahead with a century, Mafflin won frame 6, but it looks as though Robertson might be down there in scoring territory at the start of the decider. We'll keep you informed about that one, of course.
Okay, yeah.
Jack Lazowski took the first frame from Matt Selt, and he's going to take the second as well. 72 ahead currently with only a couple of reds on the table. It's 3-2 for Mark Allen over Peter Ebden. 3-1 for Ben Wollaston over Dutchewat Poomjang. Tian Peng Fei and Thepchaya Unnu have gone to a deciding frame. Tian Peng Fei leads by 50 points, but 75, i.e. 6 reds still on the table. And Andrew Paget leads Stuart Bingham 3-1, although Bingham has kicked off scoring in frame number 5 with a 64 break that is ongoing. Well, Graeme Dott played so well in his previous match, beating Andrew Higginson 4-0 in only 48 minutes. So far in this one, all at sea. Well, Williams, I thought, trying to take the cue ball behind the green, always left himself a little open to the possibility of that one going in. It was a good pot, don't get me incorrect. But even so, in striving for a really, really penetrative safety shot, Williams took a wee bit of a risk there. Graeme Dott, the winner of 2 world ranking titles, 2007 China Open, when I thought he played beautifully well in Beijing to win that, and the highlight of his career, winning the 2006 World Championship, overcoming Peter Ebdon in a very forgettable final, but nevertheless it was a fantastic performance by Dott, who's also been runner-up in the World Championship on 2 other occasions. 2004 when he lost to Ronnie O'Sullivan.
Graeme Dott, 9.
2010 when he was beaten by Neil Robertson.
One. Four.
Well, he's had several chances so far, Graeme Dott, hasn't made the most of them. What about this one?
5. Ten.
Looks like end of break.
Graeme Dott.
And you can tell from his body language, Graeme Dott, that he's battling frustration. Looks really downcast, doesn't he? Prone to it. Well, Williams made a perfect contact there with the second red. Unfortunately, it wasn't intended because he'd made contact originally with the one he wanted to hit. Caught that one too thin, but the second one was ideal. So very fortunate to get the cue ball where he did. And I don't think that will improve Graeme Dott's mood.
Foul. Miss.
Well, this time Williams misses
Graeme
the Reds
Dott,
completely. Trying for a thin edge. Caught no edge.
Miss. More. Zeker. Ja. Dit.
The two players
Ja.
would not take advantage of an inexperienced referee. That's one of the great aspects of snooker. The honesty of those involved when it comes to that kind of situation. Another result for you. Thachaya Anu has come back from, I think, a 50-point deficit in the deciding frame to beat Tian Peng Fei 4-3. So the former world amateur champion from Thailand will now play either Andrew Paget or Stuart Bingham. It was 3-1 to Paget, but Bingham has just won frame number 5. Get the feeling there might be a lot of snooker left in that one. I told you I'd keep you updated on the Neil Robertson-Kurt Mafflin decider. Well, still inconclusive, although Robertson is now the favourite because he leads by 43 points to 1 with 6 reds left.
One.
Well, a super pot, wasn't it? But he'll need another one here. Can't imagine he'll take one on. Safe off ball colours. Makes so much more sense.
Mark Williams, 1.
Well, he played the drag shot there, trying to get the cue ball tight under the ball cushion, and was appreciably short. I think from his reaction when the cue ball hit the brown, he thought he might have suffered a kick. Now that is a typical Mark Williams shot there, using the jaws of the pocket to hold the cue ball down there. Thinks outside the box, does Williams, when it comes to safety play. When it comes to positional play sometimes.
Foul. Graeme Dott 4.
Well, he didn't want the double kiss. It could have been worse. It could have been a lot worse. Now Williams can play this as a shot to nothing. Yes, he's found the gap between the reds and the black. But he played that full-bloodedly. Tried to get position on the pink. Slow pace, that meant the red was going to stay over the pocket if it missed. And now Dott's in. Already with a 27-point lead.
One.
Well, that's not the best of shots, is it? Well, the cue ball rattled round in the jaws of the ball pocket and came to rest perfectly on a red. That was lucky.
Eight.
Another result to tell you about. Ben Wollaston has beaten Dechuot Poomjang 4-1. And so in the last 16 tomorrow morning, it will be Wollaston against Tom Ford. Both of them hailing from the English town of Leicester.
14. $15.
Graeme Dott hails from the Scottish town of Lark Hall, which is not too far from Glasgow. And if he keeps playing like this, he will be returning there post-haste. Not with it at all.
One. Mark Williams, 1.
Well, I don't know what happened there. If Williams took on the blue, he missed it by an absolute mile. Did he have a kick? Did the blue straighten?
One.
Well, whether it was a kick or just a plain old mistake, I think it's going to cost Williams the frame. Hard to imagine that Dott won't get the job done from here. Well, he's now 57
60.
points ahead with 51 on the table. Williams needs 2 snookers. But Dott's positional shot from the black to this red was pretty poor.
Graeme Dott, 16. One.
He'll pot one more red
8.
with a high value colour and then concentrate on getting the snookers off the last red.
9. $16. Mark Williams, 16.
Well, that is a snooker, but it's no problem whatsoever for Dott. Maybe Williams can place him in more trouble off this. Well, let's put this diplomatically. This is not these two at their best. Not World Championship winning form, is it? Now, I think Williams can pop the red, but he's disinclined to do so. You see, if you pop the last red, you take away the possibility of a free ball, which could yield 8 extra points. But I think there Williams had no real option.
1. Mark Williams, 1. Frame conceded.
And now he
Graeme Dott.
concedes, and so Graeme Dott, without covering himself in glory, wins the third frame. Williams still in front. Now, though, at just 2-1. There you can see the adjoining table is empty. The reason for that is because the Neil Robertson-Kurt Matlin match is now over. And I can tell you that Robertson, very relieved man. He's come through that by 4 frames to 3. Norway's number 1 is out of the tournament. Now, if you take into consideration the fact that he won 7 matches to win the Gdynia Open in Poland a couple of weekends ago, Robertson has now won 10 consecutive matches in PTCs. When you consider that against good opposition, over the best of 7 frames, which is a real sprint at this level, that's quite an achievement. 10 consecutive match victories. Andrew Paget still 3-2 up on Stuart Bingham. Jack Lazowski just won frame 3 against Matt Selt on a respotted black, so he's 3-0 up. Still full of confidence after dispatching Judd Trump, the world number 2 and the defending champion, in the previous round. And obviously, in the match we're concentrating on, Williams leads Graeme Dott now 2-1. So what about the last 16 lineup that's taking shape quickly? Well, in the top half, Mark Selby will play Paul Davison. Hong Kong's Marco Fu takes on Michael White from Wales. Ali Carter and John Higgins cross cues. Right at the bottom of the draw, Ben Wollaston will play Tom Ford. Now I can tell you Mark Allen has beaten Peter Ebden 4-2. And so Northern Ireland's leading player awaits the winner of this one, Williams or Dott. Thepchire and New. His next opponent will be either Stuart Bingham or Andrew Paget. And Alfie Burden and Joe Perry, both of those two qualified for the last 16 yesterday. Well, Perry will play either Lazowski or Selt. Burden faces Neil Robertson. We start, by the way, tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock British time. That's 10 o'clock Central European time. We still don't know from the tournament director which match we will be featuring on this main table. Taking a guess here, I would think John Higgins against Ali Carter might be favourite at the moment. If Mark Williams comes through this, Williams against Mark Allen would have a good look about it as well. Maybe Mark Selby against Paul Davison because Selby's #1 in the world rankings. But right now I would make Higgins Carter or a potential Mark Allen Mark Williams match the joint favourites. Just tune in to liveworldsnooker.tv at 9 o'clock British time in the morning tomorrow to find out. Then we'll have one quarter-final for you at 12 noon British time. One semi-final at 3 o'clock. 4 o'clock Central European. And then finally, the final. Again over the best of 7 frames for the Antwerp Open title tomorrow night. 7 o'clock British time. 8 o'clock Central European. When Mark Williams was at the top of the game, not only was he world champion, but he was also world #1. His potting from distance was the very best. I don't think that's the case anymore. When he's playing well, he still knocks them in with regularity, but he's not quite as sharp as he was. Well, that shot would almost have been a cracker in a tournament we've got next week. The World Billiards Championship up at the Northern Snooker Centre in Leeds. One of the main contenders for the World Billiards title is Pankaj Advani, and it's a real shame that he's been forced to withdraw from the International Championship Snooker in China, in Chengdu, because it doesn't matter how good you are with a cue stick, you can't be in 2 places at the same time. So he'd done all that work to qualify for the International Championship, and to no avail.
3.
Can't make the trip because he's concentrating, he believes correctly, on the billiards up in Yorkshire.
Four.
Well, both of these two players are really struggling, Dott in particular. Just before Williams played his shot, didn't take him off, it was 20-30 seconds before. You might have heard a burst of applause. That was because over on table 3, Jack Lazowski has beaten Matt Selt 4-0. Finished off with an 80-plus break, and so Lazowski, after beating Jed Trump in round 2, continues his good form, and he's through to the last 16.
Eight. Nine.
Not for the first time, another
16.
poor positional shot off the black, short on the red he wanted. Wanted to pop the red closest to the cue ball because by doing that he would free the black into both of the top corner pockets.
Graeme Dott, 16.
Graeme Dott has a tendency to play poor matches at times. None poorer than the first round of the World Championship earlier this year when he was beaten 10-1 by Joe Perry. He was using a new cue. Or one that had been significantly altered at least, and he just could not pot a ball. Humbled 10-1, one of the worst performances by anyone at the Crucible, let alone a former champion. And quite frankly, what we've seen so far isn't much of an upgrade. How about this for a performance? Andrew Paget has beaten Stuart Bingham 4-2. Paget, the Welsh amateur, goes into the last 16 draw. Congratulations to him. That really is a surprise, especially considering that Bingham had won 8 of his first 9 frames in the tournament, winning his first 2 matches 4-0 and 4-1, and making 3 century breaks en route, including the highest of the event, a 1-4-2 total clearance. So now 11 tables in this Lotto arena, and this is the only one with snooker going on. It's the closing match in front of the television cameras today, and it's the closing match either televised or non-televised. There you can see just a table fitter brushing the tables. Apart from that, the only players moving, or the only people moving, are the referee and the two players here. Now that is a Mark Williams speciality. A thin edge safety. Played it nicely. Although he has left a red, should Dott choose to take it on. I think with his current confidence level, if he does, it might be ill-advised. By the way, I was telling you that Andrew Paget has beaten Stuart Bingham 4-2. Well, two things about that. One is that he's really good mates with Mark Williams, has been for a number of years. And although Williams takes the mickey out of him mercilessly, he will be delighted to see Andrew go through. And the second thing is that means we do have one amateur in the last 16 tomorrow. Both Chris Norbury and John Astley made the last 32 yesterday, but Norbury was beaten 4-3 by Paul Davison. John Astley lost 4-1 to Michael White.
Foul. And a miss. Graeme Dott, 4. Free ball.
Well, the referee said the full house there, didn't he? Foul. And a miss. But the most important thing he said was right at the end there. Free ball.
Ground ball.
Williams was in trouble anyway. Getting the cue ball there in behind the yellow off the free ball brown has multiplied the trouble. Couldn't just roll into the brown, by the way, and snooker in behind that, because you can't snooker behind a free ball directly. Well, it's been one of those low-quality, fragmentary kind of matches so far, and you look at the reds here and you can't imagine the mould will be broken in frame 4.
One.
Better from Dott, and pink goes to middle.
Seven. Eight.
Now that was more like it from the Scot. Into the pocket without touching the sides. Already 39 points to the good in frame 4. And really from here should build a substantial lead.
$21. 22. 28. 29.
'A combination of players from the Asian Players Tour Championship events and also the European ones go through into the 32-man PTC Grand Finals in Ireland next March. At the moment, Williams is 17th on the European list.
35.
Graeme Dott, though, down at 54th. He's been to one last 16, and that's it so far. So a really good run in this tournament would do wonders for him in terms of qualification for the Grand Finals. And although he's not playing well, it's typical Dott this, he's sticking there. No, that's better from Williams. Needs a bounce off the ball cushion. Just about okay. The black will go. Tough pot, but the angle is favourable to come down into the business end of the table. Instead, electing to play the snooker in behind the yellow. At one point, I think he thought it might just catch a finger mark and poke its nose out. Dott has left the red across the top cushion, but it looks pretty straight, and so positional options from here are rather limited.
What?
Well, now if he takes on the pink, this is a do or die shot in terms of the frame. Oh, very good. Perhaps the best pot that Williams has knocked in the entire match.
7.
A little unlucky there to get the kiss on the blue as he did, because this red is very thin.
Eight.
Well, if the angle isn't there on the blue, it certainly is on the pink.
$13.
Did he forget that the blue would have to go on the black spot? Oh, massive kick again. He's had 3 or 4 in this match, maybe even more than that. And there's nothing he can do about that. He just straightened up like you wouldn't believe. Look at that. And the first telltale sign of a kick is when they go to the thick side of the pocket.
1. And the frame?
Well, it's cost Mark Williams the frame anyway, the kick. Dott pots the red. Williams needs a snooker. Williams concedes with his opponent at the table. And so it's undistinguished stuff from these two former world champions. Nothing to choose between them. Mark Williams 2, Graeme Dott 2, and what started out as the best of 7 frames is now effectively reduced to the best of 3. And all of the spectators in this Lotto arena are congregated around this one table because the action on the others has ceased for the day. So we now know 15 pieces of the last 16 jigsaw. Mark Selby will take on Paul Davison. Marco Fu from Hong Kong, he faces Michael White. It's Ali Carter against John Higgins, a match I personally believe will be on the main table tomorrow morning, although there's no guarantees because we haven't had official confirmation. Joe Perry plays Jack Lazowski. It's Alfie Burden against Neil Robertson. That would be an attractive match to show.
5th frame.
Pepchai Anu against Andrew Paget, the only amateur to qualify for the last 16. Mark Allen, who beat Peter Ebden 4-2 in the 3rd round. He awaits the winner of this. And right at the bottom of the draw, Ben Williston takes on Tom Ford in a local derby because both players hail from Leicester, one of the great snooker hotbeds in England. Well, the one thing I will say about Mark Williams, he's had a number of kicks, he's had a couple of unusual bounces off the cushions. At times, he's prone to allow that to get under his skin. At least, although he's not pulling up any trees in this match, at least it looks as though he's still concentrating hard. Not allowing himself to become overly irritated. There you see, just 3 points divide them in terms of total points scored.
One.
Now, little applause there, but that was a much better shot than it looked.
Jamie, I definitely can't tell you I'm going to be average.
As indeed was that, and I think he's been a little unfortunate.
7.
A pot is still available to the right-hand middle, but nothing easy. Cue ball close to the side cushion. Williams having to toil for everything. Williams not a slow player by any means, and when he takes this amount of time deciding what to do, you know, there's a whole lot of options, all of which aren't exactly inviting.
Mark Williams.
Well, he played the
7.
pot, but knowing full well that the cue ball was going to be deep into bulk.
Foul. Mark Williams 4.
Well, he played that thin cut with lots of check side. High tariff shot when you're playing well. Even more so when you're struggling. And he missed it by a mile. It's been one of those matches where that cue ball has spent an awful lot of time close to a cushion. In the end, Dott decided to be aggressive, and it's not paid off.
One. Seven. Eight.
So can finally something meaningful. No breaks yet to speak of in the match. It's been bits and pieces snooker, and you have to think a sizable contribution here is unlikely.
$11.
Especially so now.
Mark Williams 11.
Now the cue ball checked off the bulk cushion. It would have been in behind the brown, but of course with the side he had on Williams, it was always going to run as opposed to check, and so Dott can see a ball directly. Now if he was full of confidence, you would expect Williams to knock this one in, hold the cue ball for the pink, and away he'd go. But he's not confident. He's refusing it. 10 local time here in Antwerp, Belgium. It's not a late finish by snooker standards. Quite often the PTC events, certainly the ones back in England that were played up in Sheffield, had ridiculously late finishes to certain days, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning because of a lack of tables, but here that's not an issue with 11 in the arena. But with an 11 table setup, a 10 o'clock finish for one of these PTCs is quite late. And of course, I'll say 10 local time and potentially 3 frames left. Well, that's the first time for quite some time that Mark Williams has had one of those reds that wriggles in the jaw and eventually drops in, but no fortune positionally.
Mark Williams.
What he says to Graeme Dott, get out of that. Well, requires the spider. That means if he puts a little bit of unwanted side on this, which is quite easy to do, hitting down on the cue ball, could be out with his calculations. Well, very good hit, but from where he was. It was always going to be likely that even if he did make contact, he was going to leave something on.
One. Eight. Nine. Mark Williams.
I don't know what it was. There was something about that shot I just didn't fancy. I was actually going to say before he played it that I didn't fancy him knocking it in. Thought better of it, and now I wish I had done, because that was honestly my interpretation of that shot. I just thought, given his level of confidence, or lack of it, that one could go astray.
One. Eight. Nine. $16. $17. 24. 25. 32. 33.
Break of 33, and with that, Dott goes in front in the frame.
$39. 40.
'Now he's missed a couple of these reds across the top cushion already in the match.
7.
'In this time though, and the scoreboard very much in his favour, because if he can pop the black here, the last red in a high value colour, he doesn't need the yellow that's tied up by the brown.
55.
Well, that's the first half-century break of the match. Any kind of fluency has been thin on the ground.
56.
Not only the highest break of the match, but also the best. And certainly from Dott's standpoint, very timely. The break goes to 62, one snooker needed.
62.
And after this, more than likely, Williams is going to be in one.
Graeme Dott, 64, and the frame.
Two snookers needed. On another occasion, Williams might have battled on there, but he's so disillusioned by the way he played the frame, and particularly by the missed black that allowed Graeme Dott to the table, that he concedes. And so Graeme Dott, having been 2-0 down, is now 3-2 ahead, thanks to a 64 break. The highest of the match so far. Well, we've got 15 players so far through to the last 16. 8 Englishmen, 1 from Hong Kong, 2 Welshmen, a Scot, an Australian, a Thai, and the Northern Ireland number 1, Mark Allen. So 7 nations will be represented tomorrow. It's just a matter of whether there's going to be 3 Welshmen, or 2 Welshmen and 2 Scots. At the moment, I think Graeme Dott is looking very good indeed to win the match, purely and simply because Mark Williams is having a bad time of it. A very bad time of it. Didn't play impressively to get to 2-0, but over the course of the last 3 frames, nothing has gone right for him. And that won't instill any great humour into Mark Williams. Double kiss on the red. Could have left it easily. As it is, the brown is intervening.
Touching ball.
Useful little nudge there, off the green in behind the brown. Dott snookered on all 15 reds. Well, this is a very cagey start, isn't it, to frame number 6. still a ball to be potted. Oh, super pop that was. And screwing back diagonally across the table for the blue, even though it didn't seem to be, on second look on the replay, the best of reactions between cue ball and red. Seemed to be a little bit of a kick there.
Six.
Well, that was a double whammy, a kick and a massive bounce off the side cushion. All kinds of stuff going on there.
Foul and a miss. Graeme Dott, 4. Good pot. Okay.
Well, he must be feeling pretty close to the bottom of his cage, Mark Williams, and yet he's fighting on. Just needs something positive to happen. Needs to get going. And maybe that's it.
1.
Got the required bounce off the ball cushion to come down onto the green.
Foul.
And then that occurs.
Williams, 1.
Nothing you can do
Graeme
about
Dott,
that.
4.
Obviously Williams hasn't played well in this match, you would be the first to agree with that, but he's not had the best of fortune either. That was a prime example, but there have been plenty of others. "15 completed matches in the last 32. 4 of them have gone to a deciding 7th frame. Will this be the 5th? Graeme Dott hopes not. And after that shot, the chances of 4-2 have suddenly increased considerably. Judge the cannon perfectly. Lots of running side, missing the red on the top cushion, flicking the other one, landing perfectly on the black. Now remember, he made a 64 break
8.
in the previous frame. The only contribution of any note from either player.
9.
No, he's a little concerned here, Dott, because he doesn't want the black to go
16.
on its spot in quite that manner, and it has, so hampered queuing. Knowledgeable members of the audience clapping that shot. It went in very cleanly. Well played. Well, snooker has been going on in this for 13 hours now today. Is the marathon day coming to an end?
25.
Sometimes pictures end quite abruptly at the end of the day.
32.
And so even though Dott has got work to do, please bear with me while I just give you a few details about tomorrow, in play as it were. We start again at 9 o'clock in the morning British time, that's 10 o'clock Central European, with a selected last 16 match. We don't know which one yet, although I would think John Higgins and Ali Carter is favourite.
40.
And if Dott comes through this one, which now looks increasingly likely, the composition of the last 16 in terms of nationalities will be 8 Englishmen, 1 player from Hong Kong, 2 from Wales, 2 from Scotland, an Australian, a Thai, and a player from Northern Ireland, Mark Allen.
41.
So it's quite an international spread. As for the draw itself, well, it's Mark Selby against Paul Davison, Marco Fu against Michael White, Ali Carter against John Higgins, Joe Perry against Jack Lazowski. Lazowski, who today
49.
beat Judd Trump, the world number 2. Alfie Burden takes on Neil Robertson, who's looking for back-to-back Players Tour Championship wins after prevailing in Gdynia in Poland a couple of weeks back.
56.
Thailand's Thepchai Unu takes on the only amateur to get through to the last 16, Andrew Paget.
57.
Ben Wollaston plays Tom Ford, and now you have to think, well, it is over. Graeme Dott will provide the opposition for Mark Allen. And this is a very disappointing performance
64.
and a very disappointing result for the twice world champion Mark Williams.
Graeme Dott. 64. Frame in the match, Graeme Dott.
Well, Williams led 2-0 and convincingly Dott won the next 4 frames, finishing off the match in frames 5 and 6 with a couple of 60-plus breaks. The table didn't play particularly well, neither did Williams. Dott was average, but he got through nevertheless. And so then the last 16 is in place in this Antwerp Open. Thank you for joining us here on LiveWorldSnooker.tv today, and we hope you'll be back with us tomorrow. 9 o'clock British time in the morning, 10 o'clock Central European, for a last 16 encounter. Until then, from me, Phil Yates, it's good night.